She said, do you come from a land down under?
Okay, here we go. This is my review for Doctor Who Season 11, Episode 3, ROSA. I enjoyed this episode. It felt a little bit kind of like a classic episode mixed with a big finish, mixed with a modern Doctor Who story. It was a very mishmash story. I'll start with the things that I liked, and then I'll get into the little details of the episode, though. Things that I liked, the very beginning of the episode, the very almost cinematic way when the TARDIS is first landing, and how the camera pans quickly around a couple of streets into an alleyway where we see the TARDIS arrive. And you see the Doctor sticks her head out, she's like, no, we're not there yet, goes to slam the door again. Almost a bit 11 almost there, 11th Doctor sort of thing. And also kind of a bit like the first Doctor too, where he still couldn't control the TARDIS for me. Like in the old series, where now apparently she can't understand the readouts for the new configuration of the console room, which I think is actually a cool idea to... basically the TARDIS is now on free thinking mode. It goes where it needs to. So that was a really cool thing I enjoyed. I also like the touches for small things here and there. The traces of Artron energy. How they explain it for anyone who hasn't seen the show before. Anything that basically time travels, TARDISes, vortex manipulators, so on. Leave traces of Artron energy, so that was a cool little bit there. I love the Steve Jobs reference when Graham is trying to stall the sheriff in the hotel room. He's talking about a mobile phone device, has camera and does this and does that. The sheriff just looks at him going, that sounds stupid. So I thought that was really a cool idea. And I just love the little historical tidbits, within the story. I didn't know much about Rosa Parks. I just knew that she wouldn't get up out of her seat for a person, that she refused to move, and that was her thing. I'm not really a massive history buff, but it was cool to actually see sort of what small events could lead to a historical event happening. So that was a cool thing, though. Okay, so parts of the story. This story to me felt a bit like the time meddler, where the first Doctor meets the time meddling monk, who turns out to be one of his own race, the Time Lords. In this one, obviously, the guy isn't a Time Lord. He's from the Storm Cage, which was the same prison that held River Song. She mentions there's a tattoo or a marking on his wrist, which we never saw River Song ever have that marking. So maybe a new tweak or a twist to that thing. I'm not entirely sure. I love how that guy... as soon as I looked at him, my first thought was Time Agent. That was my first thought. He was a renegade or a remnant of the Time Agency. Obviously, I was wrong. But he had a vortex manipulator, so I was kind of half right too, in a way. And I love the Doctor's reference where she basically says to him, vortex manipulator, cheap and nasty time travel, our favourite person that we love to hate, Missy, or hate to love, however you want to say it. So yeah, I thought that was a cool little throwback there. She sort of got that thing stuck in her head. What else was there? I love the little cameos of Martin Luther King and all those other sort of people who were quite pivotal in that time of history. Oh, as a side note, Elvis having a mobile phone, seriously, that's kind of messed up. Could you imagine that? Imagine if she sonicked it as well, jiggery pokery, to call anywhere in time and space. I also like how basically in this story, this guy is trying to throw time off track, not for money, not for power, but because he's basically a racist. He's more or less a white supremacist, let's say, and he wants to change history so that, in air quotes, you can't see this, but in air quotes, his people would be the more superior race or whatever you want to say. And I'm not saying I like that because I'm white. I'm saying I like it because you're taking a point that's crucial in human history for, rights and of certain people and whatnot, for Barack Obama to become president eventually. I just thought that was a really cool thing to take it and manipulate it, and the Doctor literally has to force history back on track. I thought that was a really, really cool little touch there. Like, basically, we've seen the companions. I'm going to say companions. I'm not saying friends. Companions and the Doctor become part of history. They become part of certain points of history. Like, where the Doctor was in ancient Pompeii in 79 AD when the eruption happened. He forced the volcano to explode. That was him and Donna. So things like that are like where basically they become a part of history. Or with the first Doctor, whispering basically into Nero's ear and giving him the idea of burning down Rome. The Doctor didn't like the match, but the idea was sparked there in Nero's mind by the Doctor. So I like those little touches there. I just love how Graham also, when they were trying to get history back on track and the bus driver's going fishing towards the end of the episode, basically, Graham and Ryan are there, we're going to go fish here, right here too, and me and my grandson, and the guy is like, obviously, a little bit touchy about race and whatnot, and he doesn't like the idea that Graham and Ryan are somehow related, which by blood they're not, but they're still grandfather and grandson regardless. He was touchy about that subject. So again, it's showing humans as we are in our different many spectrums of love and hate and so on throughout this episode, throughout this story. I thought that was a really a cool little thing too. That's the thing about this episode. It was dark, it was real, and it was gritty. It wasn't rose-tinted glasses. It wasn't, here's the light side of this or anything like that. It was basically, this is how the world was, and, you're taking modern sensibilities of Ryan and Yaz, who, can walk the streets proudly and happily nowadays, but back then, literally, they had to be on the sidelines or in the shadows even, and to to be even I wouldn't say ignorant, but to call Yaz basically a Mexican, I thought that was both weird and a little bit funny, because probably not many people in America at that point have known fully about Indian Asian people. So yeah, I thought that was a bit weird to call her a Mexican. But the thing I loved the most about this story, despite the time traveling aspect and despite this guy from the future, basically this is a pure historical. Technically, there is no bug-eyed monster or alien or anything like this. And I gotta go back to the story, the Time Meddler, pure historical. Love pure historicals. You don't see them too often really in the new series, where it's basically history happening right in front of you. With the Doctor Who spin on it, which it's good to see. I do like historicals. Let's see what else was there. I like how Ryan used the device against the time agent. Not the time agent. Sorry, the guy from the future. Even though the Doctor said not to do it, and he had that device that could send the guy back to the future, and he almost. I could imagine actually Ryan quite accidentally dropping it, and it zaps him somewhere else completely, which would be funny, I guess. A little haha there. The one thing I felt very strongly about was at the very end of the episode, where they were now a part of events at the very end, where Rosa Parks is not going to give up her seat, and they're all sitting on the bus, and Graham's like, oh great, let's go, we can get out of here now. we've done our job, history's on track, and the doctor's like, no, we can't go. This is not done yet. We are a part of events. And Graham's like, no, I don't want to be a part of this. And it felt like there was a missing line of dialogue there. I mean, she summed up the episode at the end of the episode, saying how the future got better and so on and so forth. But what I think is there should have been a line of dialogue there where she leans forward to Graham and she can basically just say, time travel isn't all about the good, and time travel is all about the good and the bad things that make the world you live in, and history is always being made around you every second of the day. So, like, basically, you have to take the good with the bad, you know, despite the fact that we're a part of events right now in history and you're from the future. You're going to have to just sit there and take it. Whether it breaks your heart or it breaks a piece of your soul, you're a part of events, you're a part of what makes the world a better place eventually. I mean, right now, technically speaking, we're all living in history. You know, we create history every day, every one of us. So I could see the doctor actually saying something like to a companion, saying, you're seeing this firsthand, here's a learning experience for you, but we're a part of this. This is what we do. We fix things that are broken. We try to make the world a better place. Past, present, future, sideways, whatever have you. But I did like this episode strongly because, like I said, it wasn't rose tinted, where Ryan was walking along and I believe a woman dropped something, and he went to go give it back to her, and the husband just turned around and walloped him across the face. I'm sure that was probably quite common for back then. I mean, if someone dropped something and you went to go give it back to them, if you were as they say again in air quotes, the wrong color, you know, to get a slap or a wallop like that. Nowadays, it's wrong. It's an arrestable offense and all that. But to take a story as strong as this, I think, and make it into an episode was quite daring. And I think in a way, a little bit, it's sort of trying to get us to come to terms with the Doctor as being a woman. The first two episodes, you could have almost had a man or a woman or a cat be the Doctor in the first two episodes. But I think in this one, it sort of makes it a little bit more stronger, because you had, in this story, it felt like a hierarchy. You had like your men, you had, I'm going to say this again in air quotes, you had your white men, then you had your white women, then you had, as they classified them, the coloreds, which I really don't like saying. It feels wrong, but I do like this story. It was a very simple story. It was basically telling the story of Rosa Parks and just throwing a little time travel into the mix, just to get the story across as a sci-fi time traveling show. Which, you know what, it worked. I'm gonna say it again. The Time Meddler with the time traveling monk. This is the perfect analog for those two to go hand in hand. I did enjoy it very much, although I think it was at least 2 times in the episode when the Doctor uses a screwdriver and she poses and she strikes this pose. It's really starting to become very noticeable. The one thing I really liked, though, I thought was really cool, the writing on the wall about, you know, the events in the hotel room, the events that lead up to Rosa Parks not getting off her seat, and that Graham's like, "What the hell are you doing? You graffiti?" And she's like, "No, look." She sonics it and it disappears. First time we ever seen that, I believe, and that was the coolest. I'm gonna give this episode an 8.5 out of 10. I love pure historicals. Just to see history with a Doctor Who twist on it was really, really cool. This Doctor, I'm still think is finding her feet as a character in her own right. There are little things that sort of harken back to previous Doctors, maybe a little character-wise. I'm not entirely sure yet. I'll have to go back after the series is finished, once I purchase the DVD, and watch them again and sort of see what I see. But I have seen the first two episodes. There is at least 3 or 4 different references to previous Doctors, so as mannerisms and characterisms. So bring on episode 4 and beyond. Unfortunately, this airs in the Australia time slot of about, what is it, 7 a.m. or something here, and I'm at work at that time, so I can't join the guys for the cast. I hope you like to hear my rambling on about it, because I believe I might have said something different to the guys have. I haven't seen their recording yet. I will hopefully by this weekend. But yes, bring on episode 4 and bring on the rest of the season, and I'll catch you guys next time.